What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Big Red Machine. I am, of course, Chris Jardine, aka Snaggle J, General Manager of the TGS Cincinnati Reds. It's been a hot minute since we've done an episode, battling through the distractions of summer, and I suffered a throat problem there for a few weeks that I had to battle through. But yeah, we haven't had an episode in a while. I apologize for that. I know some of you have come to really enjoy the content that I provide here, recapping what's going on in my TGS journey. So we're going to cover a few things in this episode. We're going to look at what has happened so far in the 2029 season and do a little bit of a recap of the draft. I don't think I'm going to do an Around the Minors segment in this episode. We'll probably do that next week just to kind of split it up a little bit and not make too long of one episode. And then next week we'll do a maybe probably early next week because I'm leaving for vacation on Thursday. So we'll probably do early next week. We'll do a Around the Minors recap episode, maybe even on Sunday. We'll see. So look forward to that. So as you can see, we're in the basement, 30-50 through 80 games, halfway home almost. I wish I could say this was the plan, but I think maybe I overestimated where we were in the rebuild process and in having those dreams of possibly hitting the 80 win threshold and maybe breaking even on the season. And man, oh man, has that not turned out to be the case. Maybe a little bit of over eagerness on my part. It comes down to really just looking at what we're trying to do with the rebuild and being committed to it and not jumping in with both feet too soon. We've got a long way to go here. We have a lot of holes left on the team. I feel like we've done a great job of, again, what I've talked a lot about in previous episodes of asset acquisition, bringing in multiple options at different positions. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. You look at a guy, and I'll pick him out because he's on the screen, right? A guy like Afonso Santiro, looks like he could be a total stud. Power hitting, contact hitting, with a little bit of speed, and pretty good defense third baseman. Could be an elite top 3 or 4 third baseman in the league, but he's got to pan out. So, we continue to be in that sort of acquiring assets, and I think there was maybe a little part of me in the middle of the offseason that was like, thinking, okay, well, maybe we can put some pieces together and make some things happen here. Somebody elegantly suggested the other day that my focus should be on acquiring as high of a draft pick as possible. And while I would never consider tanking, I mean, it's a game. What's the fun in that? I'd never take a guy like Manny Agilov, who I see here on the screen, who's out for 5 days, and put him on the IL just to keep him out of the lineup, one of our better players. But I do think that makes a big deal for us. And I do think, I have in a lot of ways turned my focus to moving out some pieces that don't fit into the future of the team, looking at the 2029, 2030 offseason where we're going to have an expansion draft, and looking ahead to the 2030 draft and what's in the pool. And there's some very nice looking outfielders in there. Again, long way to go. Those guys could end up out for life and being just decimated by horrible ratings updates. But I just think we're still very much acquiring people. I look at, especially on the hitting side, I look at a lot of the positions, and we have a couple of options, several options. We got a lot of outfielders. We got some middle infielders. We got corner guys. Obviously, pitching continues to be a problem, and pitching, I think, is just hard to come by. And I'm really, you put a lot of your eggs in the TCR basket and hope that if you have 6 or 7 guys that have like back end of the rotation potential, maybe one of them hits the lottery and ends up being a 70, 65, 60 guy that can be your ace, because there's so few of those guys around. So let's take a look at what we've been doing. Again, we're 30-50. We've made several trades here in the last month or so. Not that one. We'll go to the major transaction log. So we made a few trades here in the month of June. The first one was we traded out Muhammad Al-Mahmoud. Now, you'll remember we brought Mahmoud in the offseason. We signed him to an $18 million deal with a $15 million team option that we probably didn't have any intention of keeping. Our big Our big thing there was we brought him in for the fan interest. He gave us a 7-point bump to fan interest right out of the gate, which is exactly what we wanted from him. So obviously, DRC, who's a big fan of the King, checked in a few times. Hey, if you're going to move my mood, let me know. If you're going to move my mood, let me know. And then obviously when he became tradable around the draft, we had a conversation. DRC is trying to get the Cubs back in contention. Obviously, losing Davis Boggs for the season was not ideal. And a deal came together relatively easily because I got both sides of my concerns filled out. On the front side, we didn't want to lose too much in the way of fan interest. And we got Gaston Wolfrey, Mitchell Halverson, and Wayne Slatebo back, who both had, or all three had good fan interest with the Reds fan base. We actually came out ahead by 2 points in the fan interest part of this deal, which is fantastic. Moving it up from a 91 to a 93. On the other side of that, we also got a couple of young guys. We got Isaiah Godoy, who, again, power corner outfielder type. If he hits the contact and avoid case thresholds, could be a good piece. Could end up maybe being a DH guy. Again, I don't know. We hopefully can do better than that in terms of outfield defense. Maybe ends up being a DH guy, but again, only 21, long way to go. So we're hopeful. And then we got Rance McIntyre, who's a 19-year-old shortstop who, again, could develop a nice bat. I mean, I would say this is an average middle infielder bat. If he could get this up to a 75, I think then we're talking. Then we're cooking with grease. But again, we traded a guy who had really no place in our future plans at all, and turned that into, a no drop in fan interest and a little bit of an increase, which is going to help us financially. It's going to help us budget wise for 2030, and a couple of spec pieces, which I think is great. That's always what we're after. The next trade, we moved Cornelius Cobb out. Now, Cobb, we had started finding some success with as an opener. He was pretty good for us. He was 4-3 again. He not an opener, follower. Sorry. He followed 13 times to a 3.80 ERA, 68 2/3. The strikeouts are just never there for Cobb, I find, and that's always a bit of a struggle with him for me. Despite the fact that he has 60 stuff, he just does not have good K rates. So again, Toronto, who's in the hunt in the American League, and a lot of teams in the American League are loading up. The White Sox are out there adding pieces. The A's are retooling, always in the hunt there. So the Rays are making moves. So I think the Jays, just looking to solidify their bullpen a little bit, found Cobb intriguing as a bullpen piece. So in return, we got Adrian Rivera, who is a reliever with some control, a team control, for several more years, that, again, we can kind of stick in the bullpen as a 60, 55, 60 guy who can eat some innings down there with 40 stamina, and just, hopefully be a reliable piece of the Reds bullpen for the next little while. Again, hasn't been really great so far, but, change of pace. We'll see how it goes. And we got Quint Pua, who's a corner infielder, first and third. I think he can play third. I think that's a nice third base profile. We're playing him at first right now just because of the alignment we have in the minors, I believe. But again, we're hoping, the big thing I like about him is we're platooning Carson Caston and Liberio Cubas at the big league level. So if one of them gets hurt, we have a guy who is pretty even both ways that we can slot in there. Hopefully he gets a little bit of love, a little bit of an uptick, somewhere, maybe. Yeah. We got a couple pieces back for a guy who most people in the league would probably view as a reliever. We moved Noah Kaplanian out, who was kind of stuck in AAA for us. The big part of it is right over here. We were trying to keep the personality high in our big league team, and again, it's working out. The big league team is quite a happy environment right now. We're trying to keep that up, keep that development up. He was doing pretty well. He had 14 homers in 49 games for our AAA affiliate. Again, the Cubs were looking for some flexibility in the corner outfields. So we got 18-year-old third baseman Yulieski Loja back. Again, this is a big spec play for us. Obviously, if he hits all of these bat profiles, it'll be interesting. A guy who's not going to strike out a whole lot. I would like to see, maybe some more gap, maybe some more power, obviously some more contact. Again, I don't like this being a big spread because that likely means he's just going to ground out a lot. So hopefully some more power, hopefully some more gap in here. But again, 18, he's got a long way to go. We'll see what he does. Again, this is just that one of those. We moved out a piece that we really had no place for. He was probably going to be non-tendered, and we get a piece back that could be a big league all-star. Could end up being nothing, but again, it gives us another option at third base, and we'll see how it goes. We traded Leonardo Cobb, who, again, I was very high on Leonardo Cobb, just from the standpoint of, I really liked his profile coming into the season. I thought he was going to hook on to something for us. And as I started thinking about it and looking at it and seeing where it went, it was one of those things where I just didn't see the long-term fit. We have Manny Agilov in the leadoff spot, and I tried putting Cobb in the 1 and Agilov in the 2, and it didn't work. So I just thought, it was best to see what was out there for Cobb. He's got great speed. He doesn't strike out a lot. He's not going to walk a lot or hit any home runs. Can play some pretty acceptable corner outfield defense. The Mets came along and said, you know what, we're interested. And we got a couple of good spec pieces back. One is 20-year-old left-handed starter Sam Conaboy, who we're really hoping for some TCR magic here. Again, could be a left-handed specialist with that fastball curveball at the very least. Might end up being an opener or a follower type. He does have some good stamina in there. But again, he's a spec piece. He's done pretty good for his couple of starts down there. He's got a complete game and an 8 innings, and he's got 21 strikeouts so far. So, so far so good down in low rookie ball for Dogface. And we also got Daniel Estrada, who is a 17-year-old potential second baseman. Again, this would be a nice bat profile if he realizes this. His defense is not terrible, but also not great. That turn double play probably not going to be enough to keep him at second. But again, he's 17. We'll see where it goes. So again, we traded a guy who wasn't really desirable to us. Probably somebody that, I really did want to move out because, again, with a lot of what we have in the minors in terms of corner outfielders, I think if we're going to dedicate one corner outfield spot to Manny Agilov, we have to dedicate the other one to someone with some pop. And like a Harlan Lujan type, if he can keep hitting with power, a Jaden Krause perhaps. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. And then last but not least, we had one more trade where we traded Josh Manson, our third trade with the Cubs. The Cubs were looking for some reliever help. Manson's just a guy who didn't do it for me. He on paper, you look up here and you're like, hey, he should be great. And you look down here and it's like, hey, he's not so great for what you think you're getting. So we moved him to the Cubs, and I'm very happy with the return that we got. I know Brett Hagen is hurt, but I like this profile. Again, probably more of a corner outfielder type, but he does have some nice infield ratings as well, which was a big consideration, right? He can play second base with a 60, 65, 55, 75. So again, if he gets a little bit of TCR love with the bat, he could be another option at second base. He could be a corner outfield option as well. It's just one of those things where, again, he does have 70 range in the outfield. So center field might be an option for him as well. I like this piece. And then the other piece we got was Dylan Lugo, who is a gap home run eye guy. Again, solid outfield ratings. Can play first base if you needed him to. Just another good piece to have around, another asset. So again, you look at the trades we're making. We're moving out guys that don't figure into our long-term plans. We moved out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that don't fit into our long-term plan. We got some, 4 guys back, the 3 down here, and then Adrian Rivera in terms of, kind of current fan interest or stabilization help. And then we got Godoy, McIntyre, Pua, Loja, Conaboy, Estrada, Hagen, and Lugo. If even one of those guys sticks it, two of those guys stick it, I think we come out ahead. I just, we'll have to see where it goes. That's the great part of this game is over. You just have to see where it goes over time and make sure that, we keep on top of the guys, keep them in good environments, and see what happens. Let's take a look at the draft, and I think probably the easier way to do that is to just do it on Stats Plus, so bear with me as we go through this. So again, we picked 7th in the draft. We lost the tiebreaker, unfortunately, to Pittsburgh. So we picked 7th. So I have to say, when we look back at the draft, we look at the top. I think I was really hopeful that Emery Nichols was going to fall to 7. I don't think there was ever any chance he was going to with that kind of power profile, but I was hopeful. So I think when it got down to about here, I think we sort of keyed in on Noel Carlson. I think the picks I really considered here were Carlson and Frank Henriquez and Nick Hasty. Those were the 3 guys that I was really considering at this pick. Henriquez, again, 21. I don't see the upside here. Again, just because I don't see it doesn't mean he's not there. And, for a guy who says we're completely devoid of pitching, right, to not take a pitcher with our first pick, idiot, right? But, I think there were, if I'm not mistaken, there are some injury concerns with Henriquez. I believe he was fragile. Yes, he was. So, again, that played a factor for me. Nick Hasty I really liked, and I thought this might have been the pick. I think what ultimately it came down to for me was, 18. I have a couple catchers in the system, and I really feel like, this isn't a special catcher profile. It's good. Hasty has the ability to be a top 3 or 4 catcher in the league. But, we looked at Noel Carlson, and I really just thought he was the best pick possible. I think the big thing here for me is whether or not he sticks at shortstop long-term with 70 range. We're already giving him some rips at second base. Again, just because of the where he is in the minors. We have Val Menendez, I think, on the same team as him. So we've moved him into the second base role for now. He can play a little bit of outfield as well, but I think at second base, if he hits this potential, I think that's really nice. A contact guy who's going to hit some doubles, he's going to hit some bombs, he's going to walk a little bit, he's got 70 speed, so he's not going to steal a bunch of bags at 55 stealing, but he might swipe 5, he's not going to hurt you on the base pass. I think Carlson has the ability to be a very good second baseman in the league. And it's going to be one of those things where, again, obviously with any of these guys, it's wait and see. But I think Carlson was probably the best pick, which gave us the most potential upside for the future. So then we picked up a few pitchers. So I'm not going to go through all 35 rounds because that would be just asinine. But I'm going to highlight some guys here. Newland Boyle, who's a movement control guy. Again, his movement is already fully developed at 22. He's got 5 pitches. We'll see. Obviously, you're hoping for some stuffed TCR. And with the velo being 93, 95, there is some room to bump it there. There's some room to go, 95 to 97, 98 to 99. Get him up, into the high 90s, and you could see this stuff jump to, 50, 55, 60. If that happens, again, I think even at 50, 70, 60, that's got some juice. So we'll see how that goes. I feel like, again, just where we were in that draft at pick 38, Newland Boyle was the best pitcher left at the time. So that's the way we went. We get Fuga Yamasaki in the 3rd round. Again, very similar bat profile to Carlson, except this time he's a corner outfielder. Great arm with 70 arm, 50 range. So again, some very nice corner outfield defense as well. So we'll see how that goes. He is a switch hitter, which is nice. I like that about him. So again, asset. We get Patton Fontanez. Again, I found a lot of the guys that were available when we were picking were movement guys. Again, we're going to need some love with the stuff. You do got some velo room here, so we'll see. Maybe he can add a couple of miles an hour as we go. Braylon Potter was probably one of the most interesting picks because he is a two-way guy, possibly. He doesn't hit very well, 50, 55, 50, 50, 45, 45, 30, 40. He's got a cutter and a curveball. So again, this is one of those cross your fingers and hope he gets the Brandon Logano treatment and that big TCR comes. Again, he's a righty, so you're not going to be the same effect. But could we get some Logano type action here in Potter, who again has hit the ball pretty well. He's hitting .313 so far in Double-A, which is nice. He does have a home run in there. Again, small sample size, 53 PAs. He's also been pitching pretty well to the bullpen, 10 Ks and 5 2/3. So he's contributing to that Double-A team that is in the hunt down there. So that's the top 5 picks. I would say a couple other guys I was excited to get. Cannon Westridge, I like. Again, he fits our park well with gap and speed, and can do a little infield, outfield, which is nice. Again, not much of an arm, which sucks for the corner outfield, but again, this is a profile that could play well for us, assuming we keep our ballpark the same. Nope. But yeah, I think, again, we got a lot of guys down here that, I think the back end of this draft was very, very, just not great. Again, not that it should be, but but we did get some guys that fill some needs, right? You give us some potential players down there that could do something for us in the future. So overall, I feel pretty good about the draft. We got everybody signed, so that's good. No concerns there. Part of the big thing there was we actually came in $4.5 million under our signing budget for the draft, which again is going to be huge and keeping our expenses down. So that could turn into us getting back into cash positive next year because, again, we're cash poor right now and things are not great. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. So, all in all, I have to say, again, I continue down the same road, and I know you guys have heard me say it 100 times, but I feel good about the direction we're going in. Would I like to be a more competitive team right now? Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to be 30-50 and dead last in baseball. It's embarrassing. It is. It's frustrating. But, and it's a game. You want to succeed at the game. But I think the big thing for me is I don't just want to build a team that can win a championship and then, have gone all in for that and then just fall off the cliff on the other side. I'm trying to build a team that can be a sustainable top team in the National League. Are we going to get there? That's the dream. There's a lot of work to do. We need our guys to develop. We need to find some pitching. We need a lot of things to go right. But I think, staying committed to the rebuild and not putting the foot on the gas sooner than we should is the key to success. Obviously, there's a few more sims till the trade deadline. It's still a month and a little bit away. So we'll see if we make some more deals. We have some more guys that we would like to move out of town. We're still in active conversations with a lot of managers about some different players. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, if you guys have any questions for this episode of Big Red Machine, feel free to leave them down in the comments below or send them to me on the Discord. We will probably do a Q&A episode again, maybe after the trade deadline or maybe after the season. But I found that episode was a lot of fun, so we'll probably do that again. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the Big Red Machine. And until next time, keep swinging for the fences.